Good morning, everybody. It's Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Isn't Friday always the best day? Doesn't matter what country you're from, what culture you're in. Friday is always the best day all around the world. So I hope you're doing well. I'm doing very good. I'm enjoying my morning. I got a little bit of a late start my morning because I slept so well last night. But I hope that you're doing well. I hope that everything is good in your part of the world. And I look forward to spending some more time with you today. Today continues my effort to be streaming 100 days in a row. That's going to take us all the way through the end of October. And that's going to take us through the beginning of the school year for most of you around the world. So, in some cases, it might also lead to people starting new jobs during that same period. So I hope that you're well and that you're going to enjoy the rest of your summer and stay with me through the end of October, and keep on looking forward to sharing more data science content with all of you. So I'm looking at my chat and I already see Rohan. Rohan understands the assignment. He's already introduced himself. So please, if you're joining us, please let us know your city, state, province, country that you're from. I like hearing where everybody's from because I enjoy traveling. I've been fortunate to be in many parts of the world, so I like hearing where people are joining from. Also, it helps build a community here. It helps you see how global data science is. And who knows, maybe you might find somebody from your country or from your city or from your university that you can collaborate with or whatnot. But I really appreciate all of you spending some time with me. Please don't be shy. Go ahead and introduce yourself. Again, I just think it helps build the community. So I'm already seeing some people. Some people have sent messages, which is great. I will also get to questions after the opening note. But again, just want to give you guys a chance to go ahead and introduce yourselves. But but while you guys are doing that, while you're letting me know where you're from, I always like to start with an opening note and just to kind of share some thoughts with you on data science. So today's opening note is, today I want to talk to you about EDA. I mentioned EDA because I've been getting a lot of questions recently about EDA. And the different steps in the process and things along those lines, right? So just so we're all on the same page, when we're talking about EDA, we're talking about exploratory data analysis. And there really is no single way to go about it. Your team will have your own approach to it. And it's all going to be dependent on the data and the individual project that's in front of you, things along those lines. But what I really want to impress upon some of you today, because I've been seeing this again in some of the conversations I've been having, is that I want you to remember that EDA is not just for you. It's not just for your team. EDA is both for you and for your stakeholder. Because you are going to be presenting some data and some visualizations and other things that in many cases your stakeholders simply haven't seen before. In other cases, they may have seen some of those items, but you're going to give it to them in a much more in-depth way than what they're used to. So you keep that in mind, that EDA is not just about the numbers, but it's also about how the business perceives those numbers and looks at the results. Or looks at least the initial results of your EDA. Now, why do I say initial results? Here's why. Another reason why I wanted to do this intro on EDA is because I've been getting a lot of different questions about the tools that we should be using for EDA. Now, the challenge that I've seen in some of those questions and answers that I received is that a lot of people are talking about presenting EDA in some sort of final report format or something that's kind of a final report. I guess is the best way to say it. So I've seen people who have reached out to say that they do it with Canva graphics, or they do it with PowerPoint, or things along those lines. That might be okay in some scenarios, but overall, I'm really not on board with that. The reason I say that is because part of the EDA process is giving your stakeholders, not your team, but your stakeholders, an interactive way to work with the data and work with your findings so far. So in other words, EDA should consist mostly of you creating the data pipelines you need to get to that stage, you creating some visualizations and maybe pulling out some initial insights. But then there should also be a phase where your stakeholders will have interactive tools to be able to look at their own data and look at the EDA. In other words, they can create their own cuts of data and their own ways of looking at it. So that's really where those tools like Canva, like PowerPoint, don't really serve a good purpose there for you, right? They're a little bit more fixed or static in that way. The reason you want to do this is because ultimately your data science team is still just a technical team. Your stakeholders are going to know the business side, right? You're a technical team, you're not a business team. It's your stakeholders that you're doing the project for that are really going to determine the next phase, which is, ideation and figuring out what you can do with your data, right? So you want to make sure that you're enabling them to be able to look at their own data and be able to exercise their own curiosity about their own domain knowledge, their own bias, things along those lines, to be able to give you other insights. Here's where you're doing EDA right. You've approached a really positive stage of EDA when you can have the pipelines, have a tool like Power BI or Tableau, something interactive. You present your insights, but then a couple weeks later, your stakeholder comes back and says, hey, I appreciate your insights, but here's 4 other things that we found by looking at data. We were surprised that our sales go up in the second half of the year because you gave me the ability to look at it by quarter or by seasonality, and I was able to put this, and this together, and here's where we want to go with it. That's where you've reached a pretty, perhaps the most beneficial stage of EDA, where you're not necessarily coming up with the insights, but your business team, your client, your stakeholders are able to work with the data and they give you the insights, and then they're contributing to the idea generation of where the algorithmic effort should go, to build upon that EDA. So I want you to think about it in those terms, because that's really where, EDA kind of takes off on you. That's really the beneficial of it. It shouldn't be a one-way conversation where you're just giving your results and then your stakeholder just accepts them. Give your stakeholders a way to access the data and play with the data. So again, just to bring it full circle, that's why I'm such an advocate of things like Power BI, Tableau, the items where you can enable your stakeholder to have interactive tools to be able to work with their own data. They're going to know their data best. So don't try to be the only team that's doing the EDA. You're going to need the input of your stakeholders throughout that process. So I hope that gives you something to think about, because again, I think that this is a really important aspect of data science. And, it's something that there is no right way to do it, but I am trying to present you with kind of the standard of where you can get when you're doing EDA at a high level. So if any of you are joining me late, feel free to introduce yourself. I'm seeing a lot more people on Instagram than I am seeing introducing themselves. So I'd love to hear where you're from. Feel free to, again, let me know your city, state, province, country. I also do this just to keep the chats inclusive. I don't want anybody to feel like they have to ask a data science question in order to participate. So just let me know where you're from, and we'll go from there. So let me go ahead and start again. Let me bring up some of our chats already. Rohan, a great supporter. Thanks so much for coming back, Rohan. Good to see you. I hope you're well. I hope everything is good in Vizag, India. Girls Can Code sends us an emoji message. Let us know where you're from. Let us know where you're checking in from, Girls Can Code. Kialad, let us know where you're from. Appreciate you being here. Draj Sekar, hello Dennis. This is Raj from India. Thanks so much, Raj. Good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. Dejeliaba, let us know where you're from. I know you've been here before, but I can't remember if you told us where you were from before either. But it's good to see you. I'll come back to your second comment after I finish the check-ins. But thanks so much. Joseph, my good friend, he is good morning, Dennis. Happy Friday. Happy Friday to you too, Joseph. Joseph is a huge participant on our Discord, so if you're interested in joining our Discord, there's a lot of really good conversation going there. Rex, also a great Discord participant. Good morning, all from the great state of New York. Wonderful, Rex. Good to see you. Hope you're well. Joseph and Rex love the community helping each other, saying hello to each other. I love building that sense of community. Good job, guys. Bihar from India. I think that's, or I am from Bihar. I think the name is Sibgatula. Sibgatula. Hello, Dennis. I am from Bihar, India. Recently completed post-graduation in bioinformatics. Cool. I'm not a regular viewer of your channel, but I've been visiting your channel frequently during the last few days. Well, welcome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And, you know, I do try to be open to people just like you that are joining us on stream for the first time. I'm fortunate where I'm growing at a pretty good pace on both Instagram and YouTube. So I do try to be sensitive to that from one week to the next, I could have, you know, easily a couple hundred new followers, certainly on Instagram and most likely on YouTube. On Instagram, I'm growing at about 125 new users a day. On YouTube, I'm growing at about 25 new users a day. So I realize that there are some people that are joining us for the first time. So I do try to be inclusive and welcome new people. So thank you so much for joining. Feel free to keep on coming back. I think we have a lot of good people here, and I try to give the best discussion I can, but thanks so much for coming in. Okay, Deljaba says that they're from NYC. They wrote that a little bit later. Okay, very cool. What part of NYC? I just moved back there. I lived there for a year and a half, almost 2 years. And then I moved back in March. So I'm familiar with the NYC area, still have friends there. In fact, one of my NYC friends is visiting me next week. But let us know what part of NYC. Obviously, that's a big, beautiful area. So let me know. Sib Gatula says, been really helpful. Thank you. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I'm just sharing the experience, right? I try to give you guys a real world. Why can't I say real world? Oh, I always screw up that word. I try to give you guys a real world perspective on what's out there. I've been a data scientist, chief data scientist for a long time. I've managed teams. I've managed a lot of people over the years, a lot of projects over the years. So I'm just trying to provide you guys with a different view into data science. So thanks so much for the compliment there, and I hope to continue to be helpful to you. Kilad says JKT. Jakarta? I don't know that. You know, not everybody knows the little shortcuts to your city names, right? So sometimes it helps to say out the whole thing. But I'm gonna guess that's Jakarta. I don't know of anybody else who would fit JKT. Uzman, I'm gonna come back to your question. Let me finish the check-ins. Feel free to let us know where you're from. Sansol joining us from Ghana. Very cool. Lots of viewers from Africa. In fact, I was just doing my analytics the other day. I think Africa is almost 9% of my analytics. So good to see you. Lots of people from Africa here. John Murphy, good to see you again, my friend. I know you've been a supporter before, so good to see you. Hope you're well. Remind me where you're from. Amanda McDermott, checking in from DC. Welcome, Amanda. What part of DC? I went to school in DC. Yeah, for those of you guys for people that don't know, I went to school in DC. But I was a broke college student, so I couldn't afford to live in DC proper. I lived in Northern Virginia. I shared this terrible apartment with 3 other guys, but it was cheap and it was near a metro station. So it was just one of those things you do as a student. But I actually lived almost like 45 minutes away from DC proper. But you know, just one of those things you do to be able to study, because I liked the school I went to. I went to a very good school with a very good business program. But yeah, but otherwise, I'm familiar with DC, Amanda. So let me know what part of DC you're talking. Piyush, how are you, my friend? Piyush says, good evening, Dennis. How you doing? I'm doing well, thank you. I appreciate when you guys ask that. I'm doing very well. I slept really good last night. Like you know how sometimes you have like those nights where you have like that really deep sleep? They say magnesium helps for that. And I ate some cashews last night, so I think that might have helped, might have helped boost my magnesium. But I slept really good. I'm doing well. Thanks so much for asking. Dexretha says, hey, happy Friday. I just got back on Instagram. Are you replying here? Yeah. If you can look at the different icons, right? I cannot tell you guys enough how much I worked on this to get the icons and the multi-platform chat working. But yeah, I do have it working so that I can see your chat no matter where you're checking in from. I also support LinkedIn and Twitch. It's just that I don't have a lot of viewers there for some reason, or at least the viewers there don't like to participate. But yeah, I can. If you see your message, if you're hearing me right now and you see your message pop up on your chat, I assure you that I'm going to see it also. It just pops up here, and don't worry, I'll see it. I may not always get to your question right away, but yes, I am able to see everybody's chat. If you can listen to me, I can hear your chat. I can see your chat. The Jiliaba says from Manhattan. Okay, cool. I used to work in Lower Manhattan. Obviously a very nice part of New York, but a very expensive part of New York. So hope you're doing well out there, the Jiliaba. Michael says, hello, Dennis. Hope you're doing well. Thank you, Michael. I'm doing well. Doing very well. Thank you. Okay, so Kilad says they are from Jakarta, Indo. You're killing me with these abbreviations, my friend. But obviously, Jakarta, Indonesia, a beautiful country. I was in Bali last August, about a year ago. So yeah, beautiful country out there. Sati, I'm going to come back to your question, but let us know where you're from. Go ahead and introduce yourself, okay? Julian, I'm also going to come back to your question. Let us know where you're from. The Jeliaba says, I don't think you miss much. Wow, so I guess you're not a fan of New York City? That's too bad. Personally, I left New York City because there's just too many people. It's too crowded, and it takes too long to do anything. I hated that it took. I like driving. I'm not a subway guy, at least not anymore. But I like driving. I was dumb. I had 2 cars when I was living in New York. Not just one guy. I had 2 cars. But I just hated the fact that to drive somewhere, just to drive to get my coffee at Starbucks or something, it just took way too long for even the simplest things. So that's what I don't miss about New York City. So maybe you want to tell me why you wouldn't miss it. But yeah, I wish I could spend more time in New York with just a little bit less people. So Amanda says, I'm in Northwest DC. Very cool. I was going to assume that, most people do kind of tend to gravitate toward Northwest DC, although I've heard that a lot of the areas have changed. Like I know when I was living in DC, Southeast DC was a total no-go zone, super dangerous, never go to Southeast. But I've heard that's changed. But I did assume you were in Northwest. I just didn't want to state that out. Oh, great. As soon as I said nobody participates on Twitch, we have Mewini Menwe. Great. Good to see the participation on Twitch. I love seeing that. Yeah, so if you're on Twitch, Kick, Twitter, or LinkedIn, and you're hearing me now, let us know that you're here. Just say hello. Nobody's going to call on you. But I'd love to see more participation on those platforms because I am pushing out on Kick and Twitch and get very little feedback. Amanda says, you went to GW. Aw, Amanda, why you gotta blow up my spot like that? Just kidding. But yes, Amanda is right. I went to George Washington University many moons ago. I graduated longer than some of you in the chat have been alive. But yes, I did go to George Washington. And like I tell you guys, I don't have a technical degree. George Washington has an excellent international business program. They also have an excellent international affairs program. But yes, I did go to George Washington for international business program. So it is possible for you to go into data science, go into technical fields, without having, necessarily a computer science degree or data science degree. In fact, I think that's been one of the biggest things that's helped me to have a business background and be able to understand those things. And also, as I like to tell people, you can always learn code and those concepts on your own via your own study and your own work, right? But if I think about my college classes, I'm not gonna teach myself international banking on my own. I'm not gonna teach myself finance on my own, like finance at the college level graduate. I'm not talking about just listening to Warren Buffett. I'm talking about like academic levels of finance, right? I can't teach that on my own, right? International banking, for those of you who don't know, has been one of the hardest classes I've ever taken. Like if you take an international banking course, pack a lunch, you're gonna have a hard day. International banking is a super hard course. I'm not gonna learn that on my own, but I can teach myself to code. I can go out and get a technical job to support myself through college. That's what I did. I would do my own coding exercises, on my own at home, and I worked tech support at a dial-up internet service provider way back when, right? When you say that, you're really showing how old you are. But I used to pick up the phone, smiling and dialing, helping people with their tech problems, and that's how I got through college. But it got me in the tech field, right? It got me working around tech. So it can be done, guys. So Kilad from Jakarta says, "Thank you, Dennis, for doing this consistent knowledge sharing. Finally having the time to join this class." Well, thank you. I don't think of this as my class. I just think of this as like my daily streaming. Just, I'm passionate about data science, so I like coming on stream and talking to all of you. But if you are interested in a class on Sundays, we are going through this book, Introduction to Statistical Learning. If you don't know this book, you should know this book if you want to be a data scientist. And every Sunday, we are doing a chapter. We are on chapter 5 this week. If you want to get caught up, go to my YouTube. All the classes are saved there. We've done 2 classes so far that brought us through the end of chapter 4. So this Sunday is chapter 5. So if you really want a little bit more like interactive class where I'm asking you guys questions and people are participating back and forth, Sundays 1500 GMT, or watch the replay on YouTube. Oh gosh, the Jelly Abba says, "I actually live in Fiddy. Rent is salty." Yeah, if you live in Fiddy, you're doing all right. So congratulations. It's a lot to live down there. When I first moved to New York, I actually tried to buy a place in Fiddy, and I got close on one place. But here's the thing that you guys don't realize about New York. Nobody tells you about New York real estate, is that all of the buildings have these really high maintenance fees that you have to pay on a monthly basis. And that's all in addition to your mortgage. And it doesn't go towards your equity. It's basically just fees to, keep the elevators working and keep a doorman and things like that. So if in city, it's super and if you want to live in Fiddy or, like one of the nicer buildings, some of those fees can get super high. And that's part of the reason why it's very difficult to buy real estate in New York, especially in Fiddy. Julian Solano, good to see you. I think you've been on the streams before. Good to see you again, my friend. I'm from Colombia, but based in Boston. Boston, another expensive city to live in. I once got a job offer in Boston that I had to turn down after looking at the rents. Way too expensive. But good to see you. I hope you're doing well out there. And again, guys, I appreciate that you guys are asking questions, and I promise I will come back to those questions. I'd like to get to the check-ins first, but I promise I will come back to your questions, okay? Let me see if I have any other shout outs, or rather any other introductions, seeing questions. Okay, so it looks like I've gotten to everybody's initial introduction. So I'm going to go back for questions. If you are joining us, let us know where you're from. Just check in. Let us know what city, state, province you're from. But the Jelly Abba said it's all about adding in additional layers. I think you're referencing my note on EDA. And yes, additional layers is a very good way to put it. I love the way you put that. The additional key there is that make sure that some of those layers are coming from your stakeholders. Your team is ultimately not a business team. They're going to know their data best. So yes, additional layers that are added by your business team. So you have to empower them to be able to do that, right? You have to empower them to be able to sit there and play with the different ways to cut the data and the different time periods and different metrics that they can add, right? But yes, build up those layers, because that's where those insights come and that's where those questions come, right? And as you do it more, you'll just keep on getting more and more questions and answers, which is ideal. So thank you to Jeliab. I like the way you put that. Uzman asks, hello, sir. Is it necessary for data scientists to learn SQL? If yes, how often they use in a project? It's not really easy to say how often it's used, but yes, SQL is absolutely an important skill for data scientists, especially if you're new to the field and you're trying to break into a team as a data engineering role or even as a data analyst role. Demonstrating good SQL skills that puts you in a data engineering position and lands you on a team is a good way for you to kind of start your career and build into being a data scientist, right? So if you're still new and you're saying, well, okay, maybe I'm not ready for a data scientist role, but I can do a data engineering role, then yes, in that situation, SQL would be even more important, right? But overall, SQL is definitely vital for any stage of the data process. So if you guys want to look it up, the book I recommend there is called The Practical SQL Handbook. It's the book that I learned from. It's been around forever. At this point, it's been around for, gosh, maybe like approaching 30 years. Like I want to say like at least 25 years, but it could be, but I know that when I read it, it was already like a pretty old book. So, but Practical SQL Handbook has taught people more people SQL than anything else out there. If you guys want to get started with SQL, that's the book I recommend. So Sadie Ends, you didn't tell us where you're from. Let me know. Hey, which book is best to refer when you are an intermediate in this space to build up your ideas into projects, products? By the way, thanks for all of the info dumping. Oh, I mean, I don't view it as info dumping. I mean, I'm just sharing what I know, and I'm going to keep going at this. Which book is intermediate in this space? To build up your ideas into projects, products. I don't know. Are you intermediate if you're still looking for ways to take your ideas into projects? I think that's still kind of like an advanced beginner stage, right? Because the reason I say that is because you got to remember, and I say this for everybody, not just for Sadie Ends here. You got to remember, data science is not a theoretical science; it's an applied science. So in your studies, in your academic studies, or the tutorials you're doing, or the certifications you're getting, you should reach a point where you feel comfortable jumping into your own research and your own projects. You should have the creativity and the know-how and some of the coding skills to be able to say, oh, okay, yeah, I read this report and that report makes their raw data available. I bet I could do something more with that raw data. Right? Like, to me, there should be a time where you reach like that aha moment to say, yeah, okay, let me do my own code, right? I don't always need a professor to give me nice, clean data. Let me go get my own data. Let me go ask my own questions. I don't always need a book or an assignment to tell me what to do. I can come up with what to do, right? See, until you can do that, I would still say you haven't kind of broken out of that beginner stage, right? But I want to see that progression for somebody to be able to grow into that, to be able to say, okay, well, I have my own, I know my own Python skills. I know how neural networks work or how other models work. I'm pretty smart. I can go out and source my own data. Okay, let me go ahead and do that, right? So I say that because, one, I think that's a really good milestone in your growth, and two, you really shouldn't need a book for that. So that's why I'm really just kind of not giving you an answer, because you really shouldn't need a book for that, right? You should be able to kind of do that on your own. Like, you should be able to kind of put everything together and say, yeah, okay, I got it. I got a couple classes. I know some code. I got my own little lab at home. I read this really interesting article, and yeah, you know, a couple weeks ago, I think it was like 2 Fridays ago, on my Instagram, I posted about that. You know, I talk about how I had this period where I kind of just put in the time on my own, right? I was doing my own research, my own development of myself as a data scientist. And this was before I ever had a data scientist job. And I posted an example on my Instagram of an article that I came across. It was an article about, it was a basketball article, where a basketball player went 0 for 15 or 0 for 13 in shooting. And it's the first time it's happened since like 1970 or something like that. Like the first time in like, you know, like a long time, like 40 plus years. So what is the probability of that happening, right? What is the probability of what we just witnessed? You can write an article about that, right? So you should be finding articles or things that kind of spark ideas in your mind. Until you do that, I'm not sure if you can really call yourself intermediate. Like you're still in that beginner stage, right? And that's okay. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing that. I'm just saying that that's a really good milestone in your progression to be able to say like, okay, you know, I'm gonna put everything together here. I'm a smart guy. I know how to get data. I know some models. I can handle my own in Python. Let me start doing something here, right? So Sadie, I hope that helps you. You know, because there really is no book, and I hope there's never a book on this, because, you know, it's good for you to have that growth, to be able to kind of put it all together, right? So I hope there's never a book. I don't have a book for you now, and I hope there's never a book on this. So Julian asked us, hi Dennis, I'm in computer science. Do I need programming skills to be successful in data? Sure, it helps. Absolutely. But remember, that's just one skill though, right? And it's just a tool. What would, for somebody like you who'd like to kind of move into it, I'd like to have you focus a little bit more on the methodology of it all, right? Of how you put everything together. It's not knowing the code, it's knowing how to use the code in what situations, what to look up, what libraries to use, things along those lines. But yeah, I mean, you know, you should already have some programming skills if you're in computer science. Maybe not Python, right? A lot of computer science programs don't focus on Python or don't make it its primary language. But you should already have some programming skills in computer science, no? Or do you feel a little weaker in that? Or let me know. Maybe I'm missing something there, but you should already have some information there. Wenmei says they are from New York, not the city. Okay, cool. Yeah, New York's a big, beautiful state. Lots of nice places upstate. So thanks for joining us on Twitch. Good to see you. Charmant Nicholas says you speak like Mark Cuban, or Mark Cuban speaks like you. Thank you for that. Yeah, I guess Mark Cuban is somebody who also gives it straight, gives a real world view. So yeah, I think that fits. I appreciate that observation. Thank you so much. The Jellyaba says they were talking about the rents in DC. Okay, so maybe I misunderstood your previous statement, the Jellyaba, but yes, both DC and New York have high rents. They've always had high rents. Like I said, even when I was in college, which was a long time ago, I don't even want to say when I graduated college, even back then, the rents were way too expensive. So Sahil says, hey Dennis, Sahil here, hope you are doing well. I'm currently in New York City doing a master's degree in data science, doing a summer internship at United Nations, working as a data scientist. Love your content. Oh, wow, wonderful. What a wonderful introduction. Thank you so much, Sahil. Yeah, you know what? It's funny, but my analytics show that New York City is like my third most popular city as far as attendees, or followers rather. My top city is Bangalore. My second city is I can't remember what my second city is, and my third city is New York City. So yeah, so good to see that you're here. A summer internship at the United Nations, sounds like you are doing very well for yourself, so congratulations on that. But yeah, I appreciate the compliment. I'm just trying to share what I know from the real world perspective, and just, you know, kind of bringing that to you guys. And by the way, speaking of real world perspectives, if you guys missed it yesterday, I had a managing director on stream, and we had a fantastic conversation. The chat asked some really good questions. So if you'd like to see the replay, that replay is available on my YouTube. Kyle is a good friend of mine. We worked together for many years. He's based in London, has a wealth of experience, and was really great about being live with us. And keep on watching. In August, I have a couple other guests lined up. Next week, I have my friend Hira, who's a data science executive. The week after that, I have Laura Sell, who's a wealth management executive I worked with for many years. And then just yesterday, I finally got agreement for a lady, Lynn. She is a director in HR analytics. So she's going to be coming on August 22nd, I believe. So I have some really good guests coming up. So if you like this content, you're going to love it even more in August, because I've called on my friends. I'm calling in some old favors and going to keep on bringing you guys some more stuff. So stay tuned for that. Raj says, shout out to all future data scientists under the guidance of Dennis. Yeah, shout out to everybody who's trying to go into this field or develop their skills in the field. I've always believed that data science is something where you have to learn from the people who have more experience in the field, right? You know, a surgeon, when they graduate from school, they know a couple of surgeries, but they don't know everything, right? They don't know every procedure. They have to learn on the job. So data science is similar to that. So, you know, this is my own effort to help the future generation of data scientists, because, you know, I'm pretty passionate about the field. I take it as a very serious profession. It's what I dedicated my life to. So this is me, you know, reaching my hand back to help the future, because I want the profession to keep on growing. So thanks to everyone. So yeah, so shout out to everyone trying to become a data scientist. Oh, Rohan. Oh, wow. Rohan, you are asking an incredibly important question. Thank you so much for this question. So Rohan asks, how often do we encounter the need for feature engineering, and at what stage is it done after EDA? That is an amazing question, Rohan. Very critical question. So I'm gonna attempt to tackle your second question first, about when is it done after EDA. Honestly, I don't think there's really a finish line for feature engineering. I think you should be doing it throughout your project. Like, I think you should be doing it as soon as you get the data, right? Like, I think of like here's the progression that I would see for your question, Rohan, right? So you know what stakeholder group you're going to work with. They give you some initial data to look at, right? 9 times out of 10, that data is going to have some timestamp associated with it, right? I mean, everybody needs to know when X happened, right? And it doesn't matter what X is. It could be a sale, it could be a click, it could be anything, right? You're going to have timestamps, right? So right there, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to expand or rather you should be doing, is you're going to expand the timestamp, right? What month was it? What quarter was it? What was the day of the week? Was it a weekend? Was it a weekday? Was it AM? Was it PM? You want to know all those things, right? And that's feature engineering, right? So you're going to do that. And now, and by the way, I'm just using time as an example. You should be doing it with as many columns as you can, right? So now you're adding to those features, right? Which is good. You want that wide data set. And then you're going to go into EDA, right? And then, as I said, you could go ahead and say, here's an interactive dashboard for you, my stakeholder, to play with, right? And that's going to give you more insights. And in that process, they're going to ask you questions where you might need more features, right? You might need to break that out features. You might need to break that out. So, like, for example, if we're talking about, again, we're talking about this timestamp, and you do that initial feature engineering, they might come back and say, yeah, an hourly view is great, but what we really need is a per minute view. I need to know what's happening on a per minute basis. Okay, well, now you go back and you break things out for like a per minute thing. Maybe you break it out to 10-second increments or whatever the case may be, right? Or 10-minute increments, right? So there shouldn't be a finish line to feature engineering, right? You should kind of always be ready to do that based on your stakeholder requests, right? So, kind of think about that, how there really is no end. But as far as, I think you also ask about the importance of it or how often you should be doing it as often as possible. And also, keep in mind that feature engineering really is not just within the single data set. It also includes bringing in outside data sets, right? It used to be referred to as data wrangling, but I don't think people use that term as much anymore, right? But you should be thinking about what other data sets you're bringing in to create those new features, right? The answer isn't always in a single data set, right? Keep that in mind, everybody. You almost have to bring in other data sets to get that really deep insight, right? Like if you really want to start moving some mountains, you need to bring in other data sets. So keep that in mind also for your feature engineering. And that fits my previous statements where, when you're trying to do your EDA or initially explore a data set, maybe some of those data sets aren't available right away, right? Maybe you have to wait on them, or maybe the idea just hasn't come up yet, right? So keep that in mind. The feature engineering basically never changes. And you might, and that it may change at a point where you have to go back and say, well, we have to rebuild this model because now we have 10 new features that could be very valuable, and we need the model to explore those too, right? So love the question, Rohan. You're asking a really important question, but there is no finish line of feature engineering. And, I also like feature engineering because it's a really good opportunity for you to be creative. What other data are you going to bring in? How are you going to transform it? How are you going to move it in a way that's still statistically defensible, but shows your creativity, right? I mean, to me, that's fun. That's where the fun of data science really begins. But great, thank you, Rohan. Thank you so much for that. Wow, you guys are coming in strong with the questions. I love this. We're having a lot of EDA discussion today, which I love. I think it's great. I think all of you can benefit from it. Even if you only have basic programming skills, you should be able to do your own EDA. So this is great. And Piyush is coming in with another strong question. Dennis, what's the thing that makes you different and makes you getting chosen as a leader in the team? And Dennis, if it's appropriate, can you tell any sleeping tips? Okay. I'm not sure if I'm the best person for the sleeping tips because I'm working all the time. I mean, I work around the clock to bring you guys this content. But the only good sleeping tips I know is I know that magnesium helps me. So as I said, I had some cashews last night. Cashews are full of magnesium, and it definitely helped me sleep last night. And 2, get the darkest room possible. I think that's super underrated, where, the little light that creeps in, I think affects your sleeping. At least that's been my experience. But I like to sleep in a dark room. I prefer to have a bedroom with no windows, but you don't always find that, right? But I like to sleep in the darkest room possible. That helps me. That's all I know about sleeping, so I'm going to stop there because, I like to stay in my lane and only talk about those things I know about, but I'm just giving you my observations. Okay, but your first question, what's the thing that makes you different? What makes you getting chosen as a leader in a team? Great question, Piyush. I love what you're thinking. I commend you for wanting to move ahead in your career. So I think that there's a lot of views on how you become a leader in a data science team. So I'll just give you my view and the things that have helped me, but there's certainly other views out there. But there's 2 things that I can think about that I want to share with you. One is I mentioned my business knowledge. The fact that I do have a business undergrad and that I can help in that way has definitely helped me become leaders of teams. So here's why I say that. Because throughout my career, even when I was in software development, right? Because I was a software developer before I was a data scientist. Even before that, I've always felt like I have these 2 faces, right? One face, I can talk to the business stakeholders and I can understand their problem and I can understand why they want to solve that problem. And I mean that strictly in business terms, right? They tell me about, what is the pain point or what they're trying to increase or measure from a business perspective. And to my stakeholders, I'm never talking code. I'm never talking math. I'm talking just a little bit of technology as far as, the tools I'm going to need or the funding that I'm going to need from them, right? And that's it. And then I'm able to turn around and use my second phase to talk to the tech side and be able to lead them and tell them and say, okay, here's what we need. We need 4 different objects. I need one object to do this. I need the database to have this. I need us to reach out to this API, and I need you all to do it in this code under this architecture, right? I'm able to use my tech skills to design that for them, right? So having that ability to talk to both of those teams is super valuable and will absolutely move you up into leadership quickly, right? Because you're able to understand what the business wants and still be a friendly guy, right? Because remember, the business doesn't want to talk to the math nerds, right? You don't want to be the math nerd talking to the business guys. You're able to take what they just told you, and then you're able to go to the tech side and design what you need, right? Like at that point, you're not even a data scientist, you're like a data science architect, right? You're able to say, yeah, okay, yeah, here's what we need. I need this, I need you to do this, I need you to this, I need the data engineer to do this, we need to get this done. Like you're able to design it, and then you're still able to kind of talk the talk on the tech side. So I've always been able to do that, and I think that helps. And I think that if you do that, that's definitely a fast track to leadership. The second thing that I think also helps is communication, right? The further along I get in my career, the more appreciative I become of somebody who can communicate well, both writing and speaking. A lot of that is rooted in emotional intelligence. So if you guys want to read some of the books on emotional intelligence, I don't really recommend a particular one because I don't consider myself an expert in this. I still consider myself a student of it. I'm still learning. But having, good communication skills, I think is really important. So when I think about my career progression and, kind of like a milestone that you can look for in your own career, is when somebody tells you, I like talking to you because you don't talk like one of the programmer guys, right? I've had people tell me that. And I think that that's a pretty good milestone for all of you to reach, right? If somebody eventually tells you, hey, I come to you first because you don't talk to me like I'm dumb, right? Or you don't talk in terms that I don't understand. Because that's what's gonna happen, right? That's why I'm recommending this, because if you are able to show that you can talk to the business and not be the math nerd or not be the coding nerd, then you're going to be the first one they come to, right? You're going to be the one with all the good ideas because the business comes to you first, right? So that's really kind of like where you're going to find yourself in those leadership positions, because you're going to be the go-to person for the ideas. And then you can turn around and send that to your team and say, hey, here's what we really need. I need guys to do this, this, and this, right? So that's what I would recommend to you, Piyush, to kind of work on being able to talk to both of those sides, right? I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword because you can get pretty far on technical skills, right? There is a school of thought out there that technical knowledge is a form of leadership, and it can be. But there is a ceiling to how far you can go. Right? You'll tap out at being the lead data scientist or the senior data scientist, right? Because you can only stay in the tech room, right? You can only stay in the tech team room. Nobody's going to invite you to the business meetings, right? And that's kind of like that separation in leadership, right? Are you talking with the business and kind of like designing the projects, not just executing the projects, right? Because the tech guys can execute all day and you'll stay that, but there's a ceiling to that in your career. So I hope that helped you, Piyush. I love the question. You guys are coming in strong with the questions today. Great chat today. But I hope that helps you, Piyush. If you have follow-ups, I would love to talk more about this. So, let me know in the chats or anybody else, that has questions on this. Sammy Bell Yo says, what advice would you give to someone that is looking for a data science position? Keep on doing your own projects. I talk about this. You can look at you can look at the class that I did on July 3rd. July 3rd. If you look it up, it's in my YouTube archives. Start doing your own projects, and I walk you through how to do how you would do your own project. The best way to land a job, the best way to pass a data scientist interview, the best way to do well once you are a data scientist is to do the work of a data scientist, right? Start doing it. Start doing it on your own. Start having your own projects, right? Because Sammy Bell, my question back to you is, why are you only looking for advice on looking for the position? You should be looking for advice on how to do well in the position, right? Because, you know, I get a lot of comments or people who approach me and say, well, how do I crack the data scientist interview? Or, you know, which I hate that question, by the way. But, you know, that question is really misguided because, okay, let's say you crack the interview. What then? You're going to show up on day one and they're going to want you to work, right? So I don't want you guys to crack the interview. I want you guys to do well in the position. I want the next generation of data scientists to keep on growing the profession, right? So keep that in mind, Sammy Bell. It's not just about passing the interview or how do I land the job. It's how do you do well in the job? You do well in the job by putting in your work now. You can go out there and get the tools, get the data, right? Data science tools are very egalitarian. They're available to everybody in the world, right? There's no barriers to entry. So go out and do it. Go out and find some projects and use the tools out there. Use your knowledge, right? Nivikram says, can you give me advice for someone who is looking to choose DevOps as a career? I am a terrible person to ask for that. For those of you who know my history, and by the way, if you'd like to know more of my background and how I got into data science and what I recommend, please feel free to check out my book, Your First Year in Data Science. It's available on Amazon. I've tried to make the ebook version affordable. So I think it's accessible in most parts of the world. But in my book, I share about how I actually left DevOps. You know, DevOps for me wasn't really fun. So I really don't want to give you any advice, Nikram, because I'm just not the best person for it. You know, I like to stay in my lane. I know data science, that's all I'm going to talk about, right? But to me, DevOps just wasn't interesting anymore. You know, I did it for like 10 plus years. I've done everything you can do in Microsoft.NET. I would still take on anybody in a C# challenge. Do not challenge me on my C# skills, because if you're going to challenge me on C#, you better pack a lunch, because I'm still pretty good, but I just don't like it. So I really can't advise you on DevOps. Yeah, I just got bored with it after a while. Mandar Desurkar says, can you please give me a roadmap for data science? Mandar, I see that you're on YouTube, and yes, I do have a roadmap on YouTube. So if you look at my channel, you can search for Data Science Roadmap for Students. It's one of the very first videos I made, and I laid out what I would be doing now vis-a-vis what I did to make the transition into data science. So I've updated it for modern day because I did it a while ago. I'm an old man. But yes, you can find it on my YouTube. It's one of the longest videos I've done. It's one of the first videos I did. I get this question all the time. That's why I made that video. And by the way, guys, I'm going to say this again. In that video, I recommend a coding challenge, and I promise to help the people who do the coding challenge, and no one has come back yet. That video has a pretty good number of views, but no one has come back with the coding challenge yet. So think long and hard before you want to become a data scientist. But go ahead and look at that video. It's a full roadmap of what I would be doing to make the transition, okay? Kilad says, okay, I will join on Sunday and we'll check out the book. Thanks, Dennis. Yeah, so the book is Introduction to Statistical Learning. You don't have to spend money on it. The authors, if you go to statlearning.com, they make the PDF available for free. And come on Sundays if you want. I'm doing it. We have 6 more Sundays left because we're doing every chapter. We're already in chapter 5, which is incredible. That's halfway through the book. I can't believe we've done that. But yeah, come on Sunday. I teach it live. I never do pre-recorded content or teaching content. So yeah, look forward to seeing you, and anybody else wants to join, Sunday, 1500 GMT, go to YouTube. I always put the thumbnails or the session ahead of time. That way you can click on notify me and Google will tell you when we're starting. I think it sent it to you like 10 minutes ahead or something. but it'll tell you when the session's starting. We've been having a great time. We've been having some really, really cool people show up and having the back and forth. So keep on coming. Quite Forest Soul says, hello, sir. I am inspired by your live videos and posts. Also your instructions. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, just sharing what I know, just having fun with it. You know, I'm passionate about this stuff, so might as well get online and talk. They're from India. Cool. I Shriseth says, hello, sir. Can you suggest me a roadmap as a beginner to become a data scientist role? Yeah, same thing I would as I previous answer. Go to my YouTube. It's called the Data Science Roadmap for Students. I tell you what I would be studying. I tell you the degrees I would be following. I tell you the classes I would be taking, and I give a coding challenge. So yeah, feel free to go there. Raj says, Dennis, can you help us by sharing your insights or tutorial videos for learning ETL? You know, I love how today we are focused on EDA and all that. I love that. I love that. Unfortunately, I don't know if I have any good tutorials on ETL. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You know, for me, ETL is one of those things that I've been doing it for so long that you don't know how to explain it anymore, right? Like in the Sunday class, I talk about how, you know, if you were to meet like an Olympian who throws the javelin, right? Like they're gonna teach you like the really cool stuff about, you know, this is how many steps you run, and you want to throw it when you reach this stage and all that, right? But if you ask them like, well, where do I put my hand, or like, why do I put my hand that way? Like why is it this angle? They're gonna tell you, I don't know. It's just the way I've always done it. I just, you know, like they don't, you know, an Olympian doesn't think about like where to put their hand and, you know, exactly the angle, the whole. They've been doing it for so long that it just comes to them, right? So for me, ETL, I don't know if I've never looked up a tutorial because I don't need one. I've been doing it for a while. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things that maybe you're better off just kind of learning in your own lab, right? Set up your own MySQL lab and do ETL out of that. I mean, I think that's the best advice I can give you. I mean, I just wish I was more knowledgeable to be able to point you to a single resource. But get a MySQL lab going and do it all, right? So sorry, Raj, but that's really the best answer I can give you. I just haven't really focused on it in a long time. Sahil says, Sahil, you asked the previous question about jobs, didn't you? Oh, no. Sahil was talking about having a summer internship. Which resource would you suggest to prepare for data science interviews? We're not preparing for interviews, we're preparing for the career of being a data scientist, right? Data science is a serious profession, right? So we shouldn't be thinking about how do I pass the interview? It's how do I become a good data scientist, right? So Sahil, you mentioned that you were already at the United Nations in New York City, right? So you should already have the skills to be able to put your own projects together, right? So if you have that, then go ahead and start putting projects together that reflect your own work, your own research. That's going to be the best way to not pass interviews, but become a data scientist. You got to work with more data to feel more comfortable with it and develop those skills. And if you can do that, then that's the best way to pass interviews, because you will be a data scientist, and it'll come across in the way you talk, and in the way you display your methodology, and in the way you carry yourself, right? So we're not passing the interviews here, guys. We're becoming data scientists, okay? Kiad says, can you suggest recommended supervised and unsupervised machine learning books and forecasting journals? Well, technically any book is supervised and unsupervised machine learning, right? I mean, what else is there? I mean, clustering, but you've covered it all. So pick up any machine learning book, right? As far as forecasting, you're going to want to look up the live stream I did on Tuesday, maybe. I think I did a live stream on Profit by Meta, which I would use for basically any forecasting problem You know, it's a very powerful engine. So yeah, I mean, just you can learn by doing on that one. I don't think you need an entire book for forecasting. Needed provider is from Bangalore. I had a question. Did my undergrads in CS wanted to get into data science and analytics, but do not want to do masters, and as it's inaffordable for me. So is there any online course? Yeah, come on Sundays. Come on Sundays and read this book, right? If you can't come on Sunday, at least get this book. This is where professional data science begins, right? Really smart authors. I have a lot of respect for this book. It taught me a while back, but that's what I would start. Come on Sundays. We're going through the book chapter by chapter. But yeah, but I mean, if you're trying to kind of learn in a cost-effective way, a book like that is where I would start to build the foundation. Okay. Okay, needed provided say that help with visual learning and get recognized also. I think that that book, Introduction to Statistical Learning, can help you with that, and needed provided. Okay. Mr. Wastid, let us know where you're from. I don't think you introduced yourself. Hi Dennis, Sam here. How to break into tech jobs. I have 10 plus years of experience in astrophysics research programming. I have experience in a lot, but not a lot in one. Feel stuck. I'm also 36. Feel stuck. There's a limited character, so sorry about the abbreviation and slang on that question. For someone like you, you could also look up my data science roadmap. Even though I label it as for students, I do say that it's for people who are early in their career or looking to make the transition in their career. I'm also sharing what I did to make my transition in my career, and I believe that video is coming out on Monday. I think I have a video coming out on that on Monday. So yeah, so check out the data science roadmap, or check out my video on Monday, because for the first time ever, I'm sharing my entire story of how I did the transition from one to the other, because I wasn't happy doing software development, so I went into data science. So you can do both of those. I hope that helps. If not, feel free to add some more information in the chat. Okay. Rohan says thank you. I hope it helps, Rohan. And again, I really appreciate the questions that you guys are asking. You and Piyush asked 2 great questions back to back. Dennis, you haven't named the books on emotional intelligence. Yeah, because I'm not an expert, right? I only like to talk about the things that I feel comfortable on, that I feel like I have some knowledge on. And I am not an expert in emotional intelligence. That's a very broad topic. So I fully acknowledge that I am still learning about it. So I've been fortunate to receive some training on it. I've taken some classes on effective communication. I've always been an okay writer, so that kind of helps. But I'm not willing to name books because I'm not an expert, and I don't want to give you guys bad information. Like I said, I stay in my lane. You want to talk data science, I'll recommend books all day, but I am not an expert in emotional intelligence. I just know that it's very helpful when you're working, and I have seen the benefits of it. I'm working on my own, and I continue to work on my own. But other than that, I don't want to misguide you. Hi, sir. Could you please advise on which cloud services do you recommend data scientists to learn? Okay. So as I tell you guys in the Sunday class, I like to I like to use the Socratic method, and sometimes the Socratic method is asking questions of you. So my question to you, Shafiq, and to anybody in the chat, anybody who wants to answer, why do you want to learn cloud services? Why do you feel like that's a requirement for data science? Like, why learn any cloud services? So I want you to think about that one, okay? Why do you need anything? So let me know. Feel free to add in the chat, or if anybody else in the chat wants to add in, I'd love to hear it, okay? Syed Hamad says, hello everyone, good morning, hope you're doing well. Good morning, Syed. Sorry for joining late. Hey, no worries. I'm glad to have you here. You guys can join late or come whenever you want. I save all of my live streams on YouTube. Also, for the class I'm doing on Sundays, we haven't gone anything less than 2 hours, and sometimes we've gone a lot more than that. So if you can't join right away, or you want to come in late, come and join us in the second hour. We'll probably still be going 2 hours into it. So feel free to join in. Eunice says, I am from university and I want to venture into database administration. Which database can you suggest for me? You sure you want to do DBA work? It's so boring. I mean, at least that's the way I think. I mean, I think it's pretty boring, but maybe you like it. Which database would you suggest? Well, that's kind of difficult because I could tell you go out and learn SQL Server and Oracle, but it's very hard for you to do that, right? There's not a lot of like student packages to be able to learn those. A lot of those you learn on the job, right? So what I would tell you is build a good foundation in SQL, and then do what you can with databases like MySQL, right? MySQL is free, fairly lightweight, and you can still do a lot of DBA type of operations in there, right? And if you can learn it in MySQL, you should be able to develop enough fundamentals to carry that into other packages, right? Kind of depends on how you go about it and what packages you're going to be going into, right? Some transitions would be easier than others. But yeah, that's what I would advise you on that. But are you really sure you want to do DBA? Man, for me, I don't want to despair you, but for me personally, that seems like a tough career to do for the long term, right? Let me keep going here. Shafiq, I think you're asking a repeat question. Mandar, it looks like Hamad gave you an answer there. Thank you for helping out there, Hamad. But yeah, the ISL book is a good book. I mean, it's really, a very professional approach to data science. Okay, so Shafiq has given us an answer. Again, if anybody else in the chat wants to contribute an answer, Shafiq says, I guess most companies keep their data on certain cloud providers and you need to know that. That's not always true. So Shafiq, I'm not going to single you out here, but I do want to emphasize to everybody in the chat that, okay, Rohan also says, I think cloud is required for modeling process, which requires huge computational resources for companies who do not have their own data centers. Okay, so Rohan is hitting on an important part of there. But I want to make sure I'm kind of emphasizing this with all of you, because don't always buy into the stuff that you read on these tutorials or these influencers or whatever other nonsense is out there, right? Because realize that most people out there haven't really worked in the industry, right? They might be just students like you or somebody who's just doing YouTube for money, right? There's plenty of people out there that are putting out content on all kinds of different topics, and they're not experts in the topics, right? They're just finding a convenient way to make money because they can sell you a tutorial or they can get the ad revenue, or they do faceless videos, right? There's a ton of faceless AI accounts out there, right? So don't fall into that trap. Always verify the information for yourself, guys, right? That's part of being a data scientist, right? Being part of data scientist is being able to think on your own 2 feet and being able to consider the source and to verify sources, right? Validating assumptions, right? That's a step in data science. So I'm going to disagree with your assertion, because there are still plenty of companies that do not use cloud, right? So to me, I would say, well, why aren't you learning, Linux CLI, right? I mean, that's just as powerful as learning Azure. There are plenty of companies out there that do not use cloud. So think about, kind of getting away from where the crowd is going and what YouTube says, what course you have to buy, and think about what's actually happening out there, right? There were plenty of companies, a ton of companies that existed before cloud even came along. And they already had their data centers. I mean, you think they just threw away those data centers and moved everything to cloud? Of course not, right? There's still plenty of people out there that use on-premise solutions. There's plenty of companies and industries that have to use on-premise solutions because of regulation or government requirements, right? So don't fall into that trap of saying, well, I gotta learn Azure, I gotta learn AWS. Verify it for yourself and think about what other options there are out there. Right? A good data scientist is doing these things at all times with everything that they hear, right? So again, I'm going to disagree with the assertion that they keep their data on certain cloud providers. Plenty of people out there who still use on-premise, right? So they're gonna see that you're a cloud guy, and they might pass up your resume because of that, because they really need people who know Linux. Or they're gonna think that you're somebody who always needs a GUI to work with a server, right? That you don't know how to manage a server on your own, that you always need some sort of interface. Not everybody has that, right? So keep that in mind, guys. You want to maintain that flexibility of thought, of verifying these things for yourself. So I would advise you to learn Linux, develop that skill. To me as a hiring manager, that makes your resume unique, because I don't always get resumes that have Linux on them. You kind of want to stand out in a way, don't you? So think about that, okay? But thanks for the question, Shafiq. Mango says, hands down the absolute best data science and ML content creator out there. Never seen such enriching content. I'm lucky I found your channel. Wow. What a compliment. Thanks so much for that. I appreciate you saying that. That's really nice of you. Yeah, I mean, like I've said before, I'm passionate about this stuff. I'm driven by passion, and two, I have the life experience for this, right? I think a lot of the content creators out there don't have that. A lot of them are basically faking it, right? Which is sad, but that's part of my motivation to do this, because I don't like misinformation out there. I want to help the next generation of data scientists. I'm later on in my career, right? I mean, I'm hoping to retire here in a few years. I'm an old guy, right? I want to go out and play golf, not be streaming with you guys the rest of my life, right? So that's what drives me. Again, this is me reaching my hand back, trying to help the next generation so that the profession can live on. But thank you so much for that. Really nice of you. And keep on coming back. I appreciate the support you guys have. But yeah, thank you so much for that. Yeah, Mandar says, can you fix the Discord link? It's not working. Yeah, Mandar, thanks for that. I've been getting a couple people telling me that, which is really disappointing, because when I created that link, I created it as a non-expiring link. So I don't know why that link stopped working all of a sudden, but I have received that feedback. I am going to put a new link out there. Thank you for reminding me of that, because I don't know what happened there, but I created it as a non-expiring, globally available link, and it stopped. I think we're stopped out at 60 people is what we have right now. So maybe that's the maximum. It can only do 60 people. I don't know. But yeah, I'll fix that. Thank you so much for that. So this feels like a good time to wrap up the stream. Thank you so much for spending time with me. I appreciate your support of my content. Just really trying to put out real world information for all of you so that to improve the world of data science, right? That's really my goal here. So thank you so much for attending. I stream daily, 1500 GMT. Sundays we're doing the class, so feel free to come to that. But again, just appreciate your support. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. And I'll see you next time.